Alrighty, so this is just Weird People News. Okay, we're going to kind of do a follow up from a different outlook and maybe clear what Brett was saying on a couple of videos back. Stutter, stutter, stutter. I never look straight forward. I always look around me to be able to protect myself by any means necessary. Thinking outside the box, people. All right, so let's just jump right into it and get some ideas, right?
All right, what's going on, people? It's been a while. Been a long time. Seems like it. And I haven't really made a video. I'll talk about the fragrance I'm wearing today, which is a Lictimus. So we're gonna get to that. Imperium, and we're gonna get to the right to travel and why this is a dumb argument. It's a semantical argument, and why you're wasting your time bringing this argument up. I usually don't try to take shots at other people's information, but this is a really wasted argument. Even though I do have tons of case law that supports this argument, but it's not the main reason why you're in court. So the key that people need to understand is, what are you doing in court? Before you start talking about Form 56s, before you start talking about fiduciary assignments and trusts and all of this other stuff, how did I get here? That's the number one question. And usually when I do consultations with people, when I talk to them about child support or talk to them about any other thing, I always tell them, go get the documents that got you in the situation that you're in. Okay? If you don't understand that, when you get into a problem, this is why I gave you the video talking about debt validation. It is still be people saying, oh, there's no information in that video. How are you going to know how you got into a situation until you understand what got you in the situation? Okay? So we can obviously see that the right to travel it's backed up. There's many cases in regards to right to travel, but this is not your argument. I don't understand why people keep telling you about this right to travel argument, which is wasting your time when you go into court. The key when you're going into court is to attack what somebody is doing to violate your rights. Okay? If you understand what an Article 1 court is, it's an evidentiary court. Okay? When you get a traffic ticket, they're using a ticket as evidence, and they're using the ticket as the subpoena. They're using the ticket as all of this. A traffic ticket is not a subpoena. A traffic ticket is not a legal notice to come to trial. It is not an indictment. It cannot be used for any of these roles. So instead of wasting your time getting into semantical arguments where I have the right to travel, and the right to travel is based on this Supreme Court case, I do not get on here and spout case law, because case law is BS. It's BS. A lot of people they live and die by case law, but it's really BS. If you go into any case, I can pick out all of the procedural issues with any case that somebody did wrong is the reason that they lost the case instead of what the judge gave them as the verdict. So when we're getting in something like right to travel, if you're getting a traffic ticket, right to travel is not your argument. Okay? Your argument is to hold the court procedurally bound by what they're doing. If somebody allows any line of evidence into court, or any I don't care what it is, if they allow anything into court, they have to qualify. So there has to be something to represent what this person is saying is a fact. Okay? A traffic ticket is not sworn to by the police officer, so it's not a fact. Even if you're getting into a case where it's a DUI or whatever that is, whatever kind of thing like that, driving off a suspended license, driving after revocation, whatever. These are not facts. Okay, these are assumptions of facts or presumptions of facts. Now, if you allow these facts into evidence, which is basically prima facie evidence, okay, you're going to have problems. And that's why people tell you, oh, bring up your right to travel and a constitutional right and all. No. How did I get here? Okay, how am I at court? What are the processes for someone to serve you? Can a police officer serve you? Yes, they can. but they must serve you what? A summons. Okay? So now we're going to get a little bit into it. I'm going to go around with some of this stuff. So, you know, the United States Constitution, Constitution and Supreme Court recognize and protect the right to interstate travel. So you know, some people think, oh, yeah, you know, it doesn't matter. I don't give a damn what the Supreme Court said. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is what is the procedure of the court when they're dealing with me. Okay? That's where I'll keep it at. I don't need to get into any arguments, semantical arguments about this and that and this or that. Okay? So you have to understand what is the due process, what are the substantive due process rights that you have when somebody is trying to abridge your rights by using a court. Okay? So we're going to get to substantive due process rights. Okay, substantive due process rights is a principle in the United States constitutional law that allows courts to establish and protect certain fundamental rights from government interference, even if only procedural protections are present or the rights are enumerated elsewhere in the United States Constitution. The courts have asserted that such protections come from the due process clause. Okay? What are we talking about right to travel? When we need to talk about how did this traffic ticket get into court? Why am I talking about the right to travel? You see what I'm saying? How did that traffic ticket get into court? That's the only thing you need to be talking about. You have all these people wasting your time on the internet talking about the right to travel. That is a wasted argument. It doesn't mean you can't win with it. It's stupid. I'm going to ask them, if you have not, how did you even get this traffic ticket? What qualified you to be judge, jury, and execution? Okay? Of the 5th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution, which prohibit the federal and state governments, respectively, from depriving any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Okay? Once I bring up due process, that should be it. That should be the end of the traffic ticket. I don't give a damn how severe it may have been. I might have been doing 150 in a 25 zone. Once I bring up due process, because it's impossible for them to get that off that ticket from the officer who was from the executive branch to the judicial branch without violating the separation of power. Okay? How did they get it in there? That's all you need to be talking about. I don't talk about nothing outside of court that is not on a court record. Whatever's on that court record, that's what we're talking about. All right? So, sorry. Okay. I apologize, but sometimes
So, in short, what he's saying as well, right? Without the due process, then they don't have standing in law or of law. Which goes back into what? Subject matter jurisdiction.
come up and it kind of distracts me when I'm reading certain things. All right. So, without due process of law, substantive due process demarks the line between those acts the court hold to be subjective to the government regulation or legislation, and those that courts place beyond the reach of government interference. Whether the 5th or 14th Amendments were intended to serve that function continues to be a matter of scholarly as well as judicial discussion and dissent. Okay. In recent opinions, Justice Clarence Thomas has called on the Supreme Court to reconsider all of its rulings that were based on substantive due process. Substantive due process is distinguished from procedural. See, if you know these two elements of substantial due process and procedural due process, you could pretty much get any damn case tossed out without even stepping foot in court and without even getting in one argument at all. I don't even have to argue jurisdiction because I already know how to argue without bringing up jurisdiction. Okay? I know how to argue to where they'll just like, nah, throw that case out. Because if we come after them, and people have seen this, so people, when you're dealing with court cases, I really don't even care about the court no more. You know what I'm saying? I still respect them for what they do because I don't try to disrespect the court because I may need them. So I may have to suit through them. So I can't sit there and disrespect the legal system. It is what it is. That's how I take it. The distinction arises from the words of law in the phrase due process of law. Procedural due process protects individuals from the coercive power of government by ensuring the adjudication processes under valid laws are fair and impartial. Such protections, for the example, include sufficient and timely what? Notice. You must receive sufficient and timely notice of why a party is required to appear before the court or government body. The right to an impartial trial. So if I get caught up in a county or if I get caught up in a municipality, and the same municipality is going to attempt to try me and be a trier of facts, then we have an issue with the venue, or we have an issue where this not an impartial. You're not going to be impartial when the state or the county receives benefits or potentially receive benefits from this transaction. Because basically you're robbing my estate. And the trial of law and the right to give testimony and present relevant evidence at hearing. So if you get caught in a traffic ticket, right, what evidence do you have to the contrary? How can you prove speeding? Nobody can prove speeding. Not even the officer can prove speeding. Even if they caught you on camera with a gun. Who's to say that the speeding gun works? Who's to say that that's actually hitting your car? You see what I'm saying? So it's impossible to prove that. That's why you don't get into semantical arguments. That's why I keep it straight to substantive due process or procedural due process. That's it. We don't need to be talking about nothing else in court. Because anything else is a waste of your time. Same thing with mortgages, etc. All right?
So here pretty quick he's going to bring it up. But, y'all, remember, your process, when you start reading the documents, it always says court, 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 but it never says judges or administrative. It always just says the courts, right? Your paperwork is the court. The judge is there to minister the due process and get a remedy some way or form, okay? But the court is going through the paperwork itself.
Contrast, substantive due process protects individuals against majoritarian policy. Okay, so let's look at what majoritarianism is. The political philosophy or ideology with the agenda asserting that majority based on religion, language, social class, or other category of the population is entitled to a certain degree of primacy in society and has a right to make decisions that affect the society. What? That's what the hell is going on in court anyway. Okay, policy enactments that exceed the limits of government authority, meaning I don't really have to argue my right of travel. I need to argue why can anybody infringe on my right of due process? Because once they hand the traffic ticket, it's not about your it's not about your right to travel. It's about your legal right of them being able to prosecute the traffic ticket and to deprive you of an asset that's in the name of your estate. That's what it's about. It has nothing to do with the right to travel or these semantical arguments. Just like when people bring up mortgages and they're not bringing up the right actual things in court that would just stomp out a mortgage. Mortgages are easy as hell to beat. So are car loans. But we're not going to get into that. I'm just sticking to the due process rights, right to travel, and why it's a waste of time to bring that up as an argument. Okay? So look, courts may find courts may find that a majoralism A majority's enactment is not law and cannot be enforced as such, regardless of whether the processes of the enactment and enforcement were actually fair. Okay, the term was first used explicitly in 1930 legal case books as a categorical distinction of selected due process cases. Okay, so I'm not even gonna go through this because it's gonna be a waste, and I got a consultation coming up shortly. So I'm gonna tell you one thing. All right, the key that you need to understand is when you're going into court is not always what you say; it's your understanding of where you are. So when you're dealing with a courtroom, the court is not actually held in the room where they're giving you the show trial. That's not where the court is held. The court is truly held with the clerk. Okay, you shouldn't even be showing up in court. The court is held with the clerk. Okay, so when you hear people about these semantical right to travel arguments and all this stuff, most of y'all don't even know how to hold court right. That's why when I was doing law classes, I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop doing it because people don't really get into the law aspect. Once you get into the law aspect and you know that you're not supposed to even be in this court, even arguing in front of people, you're not even supposed to be there. Once you understand that, it changes the dynamic. So let's see what else I want to bring up here. Okay, we're going to get into the federal rules of evidence. Okay, this is a very easy thing to do for people who are trying to learn law. Maybe you have a child support case coming up. Maybe you have something. You want to learn the rules of evidence. Okay, once you understand the evidence code, just start from the federal rules of evidence and expand into your state rules of evidence. Okay, once you learn the evidence code, you can get anything excluded out of evidence that is not qualified. You need to learn this. So a lot of y'all be sitting here listening to these stuff, and I've got people in my comment section saying, I got a problem with child support, blah, 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 I got a problem with this, I got a problem with that. Fam, what you think is dire is not dire. The only thing that's gonna pull you out of your dire needs is your own reading, your comprehension, your knowledge, your wisdom. I can help you, but I ain't going to court for you. You see what I'm saying? Because you're gonna have to stand up on that on your own. So I can help you. I can give you law. I can break it down to you. I can give you strategy and all of that. Even a lawyer can do that. But see, so I've even seen people in the comment section saying stuff about lawyers. Fam, if you don't know the law, how you gonna tell your lawyer what to do? Lawyers are not all evil. Some of them are good, some of them are evil, just like people. If you don't know the law, how can you direct a lawyer? How can you tell a lawyer what to do when you don't even know what the hell to do? See, what it is what
I'm going to do it a step further, people. How can you be a good jury member? How can you be a good grand jury member if you don't know none of this? How many innocent people have been convicted because juries did not know this? Of grand juries or regular juries. People are putting people in jail not knowing the law, even the basics.
it is they allowed us to become, they used the law against us and allowed us to become ignorant of the law. And then when we hire an attorney, we're still ignorant of the law, and the attorney is trying to tell us, trying to say, hey, once you get that last check, or once you get that check, or she get that check, she out. And the reason why is because we're so ignorant. We don't know the rules. We don't know what we should be pleading. We hire people, and then we don't do our own research. So even if you get a business, you still should know as much law as the lawyer. So because if you get an LLC, you can't go in there and represent your business having an LLC. That was the trick. I know I'm going off the right to travel, but the key is to understand hold them at the initial court. Okay? Hold them at the initial evidence of that. There should be no officer testifying in your court.
You got to use their rules to box them in.
Case, because he's not qualified, and nor have you been served or received notice, which is a violation of procedural or substantive due process. Okay? So a lot of times when people are telling you the right to travel, they're wasting your time. It's a wasted argument. It is a dumb argument to bring up in court. It has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on in court. And that's all I wanted to talk about. So I see these videos popping up. It's not to be, taking these to be snarky or take shots at people. Why are they wasting your time having you bring up the right to travel? There's no law in any state, and I've read almost every state. That's the one cool thing about doing this job, or not job, but I don't know what to call it. But that's the one cool thing about me helping people from other states and cities, right? I get to learn their law. There's no state that I have ever seen that requires you to have a driver's license.
We're going to pause right there. If there's no law, right? There's no law saying you have to register your private property, your home. There's no law you have to get a license. So if there's no law, then it goes, the judge must go on the behalf of the people, right? Because the 10th Amendment says it. It says if it doesn't, no law exists, it's up to the state or the people. So that's very clear of the 10th Amendment.
Okay. So all of this, the state infringing on your right to travel, etc., it's BS. It's a waste of time. And also, you have to understand that the officers they're operating under the executive branch. So the officers are not even officers of the state. Go look at your state constitution and tell me where the police officer is constitutionally bound. Okay? You might have to read your constitution. It may be different than mine. But in most constitutions, the police officers, they're not even of the state. You know what I'm saying? So that's usually sheriffs. It's some states' constitutions may be different. But the police officers acting under, executive powers. And that's not even, people try to say it's the 10th Amendment that gives them the authority to do that. No, it's Article 1. But for now, I just wanted to talk about that and to make sure that you guys are not bringing up nonsensical arguments or getting into actual arguments in court. In most instances, it should not be.
Now, just for argument case, he did bring up the 10th Amendment there. But he did one side, I did another. If there's no law, right, for me, he explained if the authority of them was the 10th Amendment. And not if the law doesn't exist.
An argument when I have a traffic ticket or some sort of violation and they're trying to proceed on my rights and trying to put this in evidence and use it against me and act as if it's a fact when it hasn't been qualified as a fact. And with that being said, I'm out.
There we go. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving legal advice, okay? This is educational purposes only. Do your own research, people, okay? He's here to say as well. I am as well. And when you're being called out for the jury, them attorneys are operating in hearsay. Okay? And most of the time, the attorneys are weaving you through a back door and don't even know it because you don't understand the law, right? Which goes a couple videos back of Britt challenging because tickets and all that is criminal. So you go through the criminal process to get your case dismissed. All right. So anyway, I thought this was a good video that I accidentally came across. It kind of pointed some things out that you may consider. Diesel with the People News. Till next time. Bye, y'all.